Hey, Krishna.
Hi, Tanisha. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I have a meeting tomorrow night, so I may not join for Try Hackney. Just FYI.
Okay, cool. It'll be on it'll be on YouTube. If you need to catch up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Where is the link for that?
It is. Give me a second. Go away. So at the bottom of the section it says video, and then the link is under there. So it'll end up being here. After we get done. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is for Friday
Yeah, this
Night
is for our
Labs.
CEH class. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No problem.
So if you look for Black Girls Hack on YouTube, it'll be under here. So it'll just be under, whatever day
Okay.
we're at that point.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem.
So the way you mentioned about the performance-based questions in Security Plus, will there be anything similar to that even in the CEH, Tanisha?
No, so CEH is all multiple choice. They don't have any of those type of questions, but it's also a sliding scale. So the CEH goes from, I think it's 65 to 85 passing score, depending on how hard your exam is. So they know when they give you the exam, like how what the difficulty level is. So if the other people who've taken that version of the exam, found that it was hard, then your passing score will be more towards the 65 point. And if it's considered to be easy exam, then passing score is going to be more towards 85.
Okay. So is this a Prometric and the other exam labs, are they allowing people to go and take the test in their location, in their centers, or can we take it from home?
You can do both. So I actually scheduled I think it was a Pearson exam recently, and they give you two options. So you can do it from home, but it's proctored. And I think I told you guys that I took an exam like earlier in the pandemic, and the proctor came on and was like, hey, your chin is too, you know because my camera used to be like a little bit higher, so it was like, I went like this, and like they were like, hey, your head's off screen, so, or part of your head is off screen, so you have to lift your head up. So and then you have to, like, do a 360 and show, your testing environment. And it's just, it's a lot. So both options are available. If you do it through, but when you register for your CEH exam, you need to tell them whether you're doing it through ECC or whether you're doing it through Pearson. Because if you do it through ECC, I think their default is to do it online, and then Pearson will either give you an in-person or a what's it called, in-person or a remote option. So, but they're still open. So.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I told you guys last time that I was going to start off with the lab from last time because my machine so rudely crashed in the middle of what we were doing. So I'm going to start off with that, and then I will jump into today's information. And hopefully my machine doesn't die a horrible death today. All right, so let's see. So we went through the OSINT questions last week, so we'll talk about the packing crafting, and I'll start with ZenMap since it seems that my terminal is not cooperating. All right. So for let's see, for ZenMap, so ZenMap is just the GUI version of Nmap. It's available on all of the platforms, but most of the time people use Nmap. I'm sorry, ZenMap on Windows machines because it's a GUI. But I'm using this on my Kali machine, so they actually do have a GUI version, but you can do it either way, either through Nmap, through the terminal like we normally do, or you can do it through ZenMap. So this is just another tool that you can use. And it actually works the same way as Nmap does. You put in the command and then it actually shows you the results of the command here. But I find that it's better on my eyes to use ZenMap. Let's see. My keyboard is not registering at all. So just like when you do how we do when we do the IMAP scans, it'll show you the results of the scan under over here. And let me make sure my vertical web app is actually up. Okay, it looks like it's up even though it's not showing. So let me try this again. Oh, okay, I know what's going on here. All right, this is not going to cooperate with me, so I will just go back to, I put the screenshots for the week 4, so it's called week 4 CEH answers here. So you guys can download it to see the screenshots in here for all of the exercises from last week. And is this the answers? Okay, yeah, so I can actually just show you on here what it looks like. All right. Oh, you can't see that well. All right, so we'll have to wait until I can get it together. So I'll just go through the slides for the new material for this week. And then maybe we'll have to do a makeup lab session when I can get my computer to stop being stupid every time I'm on camera. All right, so this week we're talking about, do you guys want to do the Kahoot? There's 3 of you.
Yes.
Yes, no, that's right. All right, so this is the Kahoot pin. All right, so we will go ahead and get started.
The top 3.
Good point. What is it called when you obtain admin privileges from a normal user's account? privilege escalation. Can you in here? Hey, Kenya. All right, which of these is a reason to use an exploit against a local vulnerability? Okay, looks like you got it in. All right, so yes, privilege escalation. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Let's see what's going on. Time stomping is when you manipulate the timestamps on files. That is true. So this was in, I'll find the chapter for this for you guys, but that's in the section about covering tracks. All right, number 4, which of these techniques might be used to maintain access to a system? Yep. So this is all about the maintaining access, just putting in your back door, making sure you can get back in later. All right, number 5, reliable exploits against known vulnerabilities can be obtained from Tor. Does that sound legit? Yes, false. You want to get your exploits from a reliable location, like exploit DB. All right. Next up, number 6. What might an attacker be trying to do by using the clear EV command interpreter? Yep. This is for manipulating log files. Again, part of the covering your track section. All right. Number 7, true or false. If you find when you log in that you are the www data user, your next step should be to elevate privileges. Yep, that is true. Anytime you're in there as anybody other than root, you want to try to elevate privileges. All right, number 8, true or false. Pivoting on a compromised system gets you higher access on that machine. False, that's correct. Pivoting is getting access to another machine on the same network. All right, number 9. What tool would you use to compromise a system to do post-exploit actions? Yep, good job. All right, number 10. What application might be a common target for client-side exploits? Client-side exploits are done in the web browser. All right, so our podium. Number 3, Kenya. Number 2, RB. And number 1, Krishna. All right, guys. So we will get into, let me just try my thing one more time and we'll get on to. All right, we will get into this week's material. So this week we are continuing our look into the analysis domain, which is about information security assessment processes. So this is chapter 4 and 7 in Messier and 3, 5, and 7 in Walker. Most of those questions that you guys just saw were out of, I think, chapter 7 in Walker and Messier. So take a look at that. So this is the information security assessment process, which is again 13% of your exam. So this is about footprinting, scanning, enumeration, system hacking, and actually this should all be part of system hacking. So it's password cracking, privilege escalation, executing applications, hiding files, and then covering your tracks. All right, so footprinting, which is the beginning of the ethical hacking process, is about determining the size and appearance of your organization. So, we talked about during the initial, planning preparation phases, how we would be doing OSINT. So for footprinting, we start from the top and we work our way down. So they say you start at the, 50,000 foot view and work your way down. So you're going to look at whatever your target website is, whatever web resources they have, search engine information, DNS level, and then go down to like the subnets and IP addresses. So this is one of the reasons why, I tell folks in both, Security Plus and CEH, this is important that you have your foundation level subnet information down, because you'll need that to be able to do this type of engagement. So there's an active footprinting, which requires that an attacker or an ethical hacker actually touch the device or the network or resource, whereas passive footprinting refers to collecting information from publicly accessible sources. So you can use a tool such as HTTP track or WebRipper, which are basically used to copy a website over so that you can offline take a look at how the website is built without alerting to anyone to what it is that you're doing. So when we talk about passive footprinting, you're talking about things that are more than likely online. So we're talking about DNS records, websites, public records, newspapers, the SEC, Experian, Edgar, which is the database that organizations have to put their financial information in, LexisNexis or BusinessWire. All of this can give you information about the organization, how it may be organized. So that might give you information about like how their networks are set up, how, what people you might be looking for as far as, any social engineering stuff that you might do. So that's all considered passive. So when we talk about active, we're talking about scanning, social engineering, talking to employees or human interaction or DNS. So anything where you're actually touching a system or interacting with a person, okay? So this is actually page 65 in Walker, where they're talking about DNS record types. So when you look at a DNS record type, you'll see that each one of them has, more one or more of these. Not all of them are required. For example, you don't have to have a mail server set up, but for the most part, domains have name servers, pointers, start of authorities, services, canonical name, and a record. So these you might see questions about them. So it's important that you guys remember, the different types of record types. And I saw a question, I think, in our text that says something about whether or not MX was required. It is not required to be in the DNS record. All right, so scanning. Scanning is about port scanning. So what we do in Nmap or banner grabbing, which you can do in Nmap or Telnet or some other tools, vulnerability scanning, network discovery, proxy chaining, IP spoofing. So this is the process of discovering systems on a network and taking a look at what open ports and applications may be running. So when we do all of the stuff with the, our Nmap scans, this is basically, what we're trying to do. We're trying to find out the applications that are on there, the services, and we're going to take a look at whether or not those are vulnerable or not. So footprinting tells us the range of network addresses. Okay, so for example, if the domain is only 256 addresses, right? You want to make sure that you actually stay within that range. Okay, you don't want to go outside of it, because if you're outside of it, that means not only are you out of scope, but you no longer have permission, and what you're doing goes into the gray hat illegal range. So, but scanning is going to tell us which addresses are actually in use and by what. So this is why we do those nmaps /A or /O or /V to figure out which services are on there and what ports they're actually running on. Okay, so it's important to understand TCP and IP networking. So this is actually taken directly out of your text. So the system gets a frame and checks the physical address to see who the recipient is. So once it gets to the recipient, when they get it, they make sure that it's a valid frame, and then they ditch the header and the trailer and pass it on to the network layer. The layer 3 network layer is verified in the packet, and the header is stripped off, and the remaining PDU, which is called a segment, is passed on to layer 4. So at layer 4, reliability and flow control functions are performed. So there is both connection and connectionless communication. So we're going to talk about both of these in a minute, but what you should know is that TCP gives you its best effort to try to get there. It'll have like a source and a destination port. It'll have like sequence numbers. It has various things that are trying to, help you keep track of the conversation. Whereas UDP just sends it and forgets about it, I'm sorry, TCP is guaranteed and UDP is best effort. And its version of best effort is just, I'm going to send it. If it doesn't get there, I'm sorry. So connectionless UDP doesn't really care about anything. So it doesn't care if you're ready to accept the communication. TCP will say, hey, are you ready? And then it'll send like a send scan, a send packet, and then that's its way of asking if it's ready with a sequence number, for example. Connectionless doesn't care if you're ready, doesn't care if you can accept it, doesn't care if you get it. They just send it and then forget about it. So connectionless is the best effort. Source and destination ports, three-way handshakes to confirm, and then header flags to try to keep track of the status of the conversation, whether there's other packets in it, things of that nature. Okay. So any questions so far about scanning? All right, so I will keep moving. So scanning tools. So we have used a lot of these in our lab so far. So for port scanning, we've used Nmap, I think, all along, and then we used HPing and ZMAP in the last couple of weeks. This was, I think, week 4. So, like I said, the answers to week 4 are here, so you can see the screenshot, so you can try it in your lab. And then, so banner grabbing is Telnet, which is trying to find out, what version of whatever it is that's running on that port. So like, there was a question in there about whether or not it's just good enough to know that there's a web server. You actually want to know, what version of and what type of web server is on there. And then vulnerability scanning, I think in the Security Plus thing this weekend we did a little bit of Nessus, but OpenVAS is also a vulnerability scanning tool. And I will try to show you this in the next couple of weeks. Network discovery, we've used ZMAP, so you can do that with ZMAP or Nmap. And then there's also other tools called Intermapper and then network monitors. So there are actually a lot of network monitors out there, but a lot of them are free to try, but not free. So, try to use something free unless you're using it for organizational purposes. And then proxy chaining, which, is Tor, which may not necessarily be the best way to get your, I think the question was asking about maybe patches or something, but Tor is not the reliable way to get something. You want to make sure you're getting it from the vendor or from a reliable source. And then IP spoofing. So the next section is sure, please.
I'm not familiar with the is it HPing 3? Is that going to be the same way as Nmap?
Yes, so we actually had so we actually had let me see. We actually had some HPing 3, I want to say in week 3 and week 4. So here it looks exactly almost exactly like the way Nmap does, except it's HPing 3 instead of Nmap. So you may or may not have this already on your machine. So I didn't have it on my machine, so I had to install it. So if you do have to do that, then you want to connect your machine to your host adapter, download it, and then put it back on that network so that it can talk to your broken web app machine. But it's pretty much set up syntax wise the same way as Nmap, where you have the command, which is hping3, and this says, hey, send exactly 3 packets, and this is to our broken web app machine. So it's set up the same way. And actually, when we look at Wireshark, because we're going to do some Wireshark stuff, I think next week as part of the lab, and we're also doing it on Friday Night Labs. If you're available, you'll see that this, comes through protocol and wise the same way that the Nmap does. Okay. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and actually, let me just, since I have it up, just show you the results. I don't know if you can, let me try to make this bigger. I don't think it's going to get bigger. Zoom in. Okay, there we go. All right, so HPing 3. So see, it looks exactly the same way, like when we do, like, for example, a ping, it's sending exactly 5 packets over port 80 to this address. And it's doing a send scan. So it looks just the same way as when we do some of the other stuff that we're doing. So any other questions? All right, so enumeration. So whereas port scanning is about identifying what applications are installed on the target systems, enumeration is more so about what services are running, what work groups the computers may be connected to, and also what users have accounts, okay? And this is important because you may be able to get user account information for someone who has admin privileges. So, you want to try to find out as much about the network as you can. So, Nmap-V, which is the version scan, gets you the ports and the service versions. So we saw when we did our scans on our broken web app that, there was like an Apache server on there, and there's, some other, I think there was the RPC application on there. So you can find out what version of the information that you're using, and you'll need that version information because when you go to do your, looking up your vulnerability information, you need to know whether it's that vulnerability is valid in that version, okay? Because there's, there could be lots of versions of whatever service you're looking at. So you want to know before you spend a whole bunch of effort, trying to load a payload, or, if you're using Metasploitable, or if you're using Nmap before you, start running it, because it may take a while. You want to make sure that it's your whatever version that you're using is vulnerable for that particular exploit. So algorithm and enumeration tells you what algorithm is being used for key exchange, for encryption. So it'll actually, show you like, hey, this is using DES or this is using AES. And SMB is also a valuable protocol that can get you lots of information. So you'll want to take a look at SMB. There's a couple of pages in there about that. All right, so another enumeration tool. The main one that we use is Nmap, which is short for network mapper. You don't necessarily need to know this, but people say that the CEH is basically an Nmap exam because it's really all about, a lot of these flags that we see when we're doing these things. And they'll ask you, for example, like, hey, if you want to limit the number of packets you're sending, that's maybe a -C. This is for HPing, but a lot of the flags are the same. So S is for send scan. Flood is the same as Nmap, where it's send a whole bunch of packets. And when you send a flood into your network, you're going to get like a whole lot of messages. So the one that I did the other day when I was recording it for the Wireshark class that we're going to be doing, it had 200,000 packets in a matter of seconds. So you want to know what the Nmap flags are. You want to know, for example, that 1 is the slowest and 5 is the fastest. T flag, which is the timing as far as how fast that you want the scan to go. But you should also know that the faster you do it, it's more likely that the defensive folks will be able to see it. So we've talked over the last couple of weeks about different ways that you can try to avoid the firewall in terms of maybe sending it encrypted or sending it fragmented, depending on what type of firewall it is. So there's different ways that you could try to get around that. But, you should know what the different flags are within Nmap to accomplish different types of goals. So Metasploit is used in every section of the enumeration chapter. They use Metasploit everywhere. And it's a good tool to know because you can find a lot of things and it's very user friendly, but you should just know that you shouldn't just depend exclusively on Metasploit, because if you try to do like some of the upper level exams, like the OSCP, where you have to try to get into, I think it's something like, 20 out of 60 boxes that they give you, you can only use Metasploit once. So they want you to find other ways to do it besides using Metasploit. But Metasploit just makes things easier. So you'd have to get into the weeds of, how these exploits, whether or not there's an Nmap scripted or do it, or other ways that you can try to get into the machine. So other common enumeration tools, RPC info, which provides information on RPC calls, NBT scan, Enum for Linux, SNMP walk, netcat, which is common, and then derp. So you're going to want to try to, they're big on throwing stuff out there that you may not have seen before. So just make sure at a minimum that you are familiar with these types of enumeration tools. All right, so then within the hacking section. So this is the heart of the penetration testing, or like ethical hacking. So you, at this point in the process, you've done your OSINT, you've done your social engineering, you know which IP addresses are available on the network, you know which services and ports are open, you know the versions and the operating system information for those machines, right? So now you just have to figure out, what vulnerabilities are on those services. So the last couple of days in the Slack channel, you guys probably would have seen that we've been doing, looking up CVEs and, trying to figure out, which ones are high severity, which ones are high risk. So it's not an easy thing to try to find CVEs. So like there are some .com sites, there's NIST, which is the .gov site. There's different ways that you can use them. Some of them are more legitimate than others. ExploitDB is considered a reliable source to download vulnerability exploits, Metasploit, and Interpreter. But again, like I said, these guys, you're only going to be allowed to use once or twice. So you should get used to, using other things. ExploitDB does a great job of, explaining how you can exploit something. Search exploit does the same type of thing. So it's good practice for you to, excuse me, once you see that something has is on one of the boxes that you're looking at, go and explore whether or not there are exploits out there for that thing. Because, just because there's an exploit out there doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work for the particular machine that's the target of your evaluation. So you should just be aware that there's different places that you can search for the exploits, and you should probably have a few of them under your belt so that you can, in case they don't work. So next up is cracking. So any questions about the hacking process so far? All right, so we will move on to cracking. All right, so cracking is basically like when you get into a Linux machine, or if you get into a Windows machine, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to try to dump the, in Linux, it's the shadow file and the password file. They separate the password and the shadow file up into two things. So the shadow file actually has the usernames information in them, and then the password file actually has the password. So they stopped putting them into the same file because it was making it too easy for folks when they came upon that file, right? So in Windows, I think it's in the SAM file. And so when you get them, you may see that there's, as part of your enumeration, you want to see what user accounts are on the machine. So, one of the things that you may do is, dump if you're on a Linux machine, dump the username and password in the shadow and the password files, and try to see if you can figure out, what the username and passwords are, because, you might be able to use those same usernames and passwords when you're trying to pivot and get to another machine on that network. Okay, so the first tool that you're going to be using for cracking is John the Ripper. So John is a great friend, and there's a lot of different ways that you can use John, but you should definitely learn how to do them. So he's available offline and online, and there's multiple ways that can help your life. He can work with a single password or a list. You should know John. John can work on Windows passwords or Linux passwords, or all the passwords. So as a part of today's lab, which I obviously can't show you, I did a scan in John. So I dumped my Kali box, and this is what I did was I did the unshadow, which is a utility on the command line that lets you put your password and the shadow files back together. And I put it together in a file that was called my password. Okay, so I displayed the output of my password, and then that's how I got this. So this is a list of the usernames and passwords that have accounts on my Kali machine. And these are not actually mine. These are set up by default. Okay, so most folks probably have these on their machine as well. So what I tried to do was I used John in the my password file, and I kicked it off, and I let it run for, let's call it 3 hours, and it was still working. And by the time I canceled it right before class, I think it had probably cracked, I want to say 3 passwords. Okay, so I did not include the output because I want you to actually try to do this yourself, to go through these steps in your home lab so that you can get used to, one, using John, and two, the process of password cracking, because you're going to have to figure out how to do this both on Linux and Windows machines. So that is important. So unshadow is the thing that I just showed you guys, and unshadow basically puts the, like I said, the shadow and the password files back up into one file so that you can then send it to John. Okay, so rainbow tables. So most databases, and I put a little stupid joke in here that says worth their salt, store passwords in their hash forms. Okay, and hashes are like one-way things. So once you put something into a hash, you can't, the same way we have like encryption where you could, decrypt it and put it back to its plain text. You can't do that with hashes. So what they do instead is have rainbow tables. So what a rainbow table is that I take something and I'm going to put it into a hash, right? And then I'll compare, this is not the right one. I will compare the hashes together. Okay, so as part of our lab this week, which I included the screenshots in there for you guys to do. But when you, for example, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to make a SHA 256 hash. There's multiple SHA hashes you can do, but I put a note in here, the hashing is one direction, you can't take it back. So when you do the hash, what you'll see is a couple of things. So number one, they're the same length. So I put in there, for example, meet me at the corner of 4th Street. So if you wanted to try to send a message to someone and you decided that you wanted to do it using this, it's going to come out the same size as if you did a very short message, which is just Carpe Diem. Okay, so those are the same size, unlike some of the other things you do. For example, like with base 64, where this is a short message and this is a long message. Okay, so longer message. But with SHA 256, the hashes all end up being exactly the same size. And then for the rainbow tables, because you can't, decrypt it back to get with the original password, it'll just has a table of computed hashes based on common passwords. And then you'll just compare the computed hash to the other hashes to see if one of your common passwords is the hash that you have. So the theory behind this is that, it's not likely for two things to have the same hash value, two different things, right? But it is possible. Those are called collisions. And that's when you have two separate, maybe documents or two separate words or two separate something that result in the same hash. It's very rare. But for the most part, you can use a rainbow table to try to figure out if the hash for that password is a common hash that's been used. Okay, and then we have MSF console, and you can do a lot of things. This is the part of the Metasploitable. So MSF console has a lot of different payloads for password cracking, and you can run automated password cracking. And so, like I said, it's good to know how to use this, but you don't want to depend exclusively on this. So any questions about cracking? No? All right. So privilege escalation. So once you get in there and you have the usernames and passwords that are in there, your main goal, I should say, is to try to own it all. So you may see this in a lot of places. PWN is just a way that we say, own, which is basically to get root level access. So this is basically your goal. So, that question that we saw in the Kahoot where it was like, hey, you've logged in, you got www data access. Anytime you've got something that's not root, your goal is to try to escalate those privileges. And your end goal as, I think both an ethical hacker and a hacker is to be able to own it all. So I think it's good to know that, root is a Kali word, but on a Windows machine, that looks like local system. Okay. So, but the point is the same on both, is to get all of the privileges. So you should just know that Meterpreter can be used to get patch information, to get local exploit suggestions, privilege escalation, and you can also use it to get reverse connections through both Netcat, which you see as NC in the command line, and then also Metasploitable. So once you have escalated your privileges and you own that machine, your next goal is, someone have a question? Okay, so your next goal is to try to get to other machines that are on the same network. As I said, it's possible that you have the same password to get on multiple machines, and once you are able to access that machine, that the other machines that it interfaces, you may also be able to take over. Okay, so excuse me, we talk about we talk about pivoting a lot because it's not enough to just own the one machine. You want to try to figure out, as many machines as you can on the network so that you can get whatever information is on there. So as an ethical hacker, you care about that because you want them to be able to, fix any vulnerabilities so that someone else can't do the same thing, with malicious intentions. And then as a hacker, you want to do that because, the further you get into the network, the closer you probably get to, whatever information you're looking, which may be like credit card information or healthcare information or intellectual property secrets or, whatever else that you're looking for. So you want to use the system's interfaces to attack other compromised targets on that network. All right. So
I have a quick
go
question.
ahead. Sure.
This may already be in the text. I still have some catching up to do, but as far as the method of, pivoting, are you using the same technique that you used to get to the first machine? Or...
You are. You definitely
Okay.
are. But the difference is, I think that when you get to the next machine, you have all of the information from this machine as far as, what services are on there, what ports are open. And it's a good assumption to make that, machines that are on the same, network, are going to have some of the same ports and open. It's the same methods, because if you're assuming they're on the same network, then, it had to go through the firewall in order to get there, which means that, unless it's on a different segment, and it's possible that a machine could be, separated from a different network segment, but it's still interfaced there. But you can assume that, there's going to be some information the same from between user accounts or, the services or, tools that you used to get in there. Like, for example, like if it's not patched on this machine, whatever vulnerability you just used, it's a good chance that it's not patched on the other machines as well. Because usually people, when they make, when they do patches, when they make updates, they do them throughout their network and not just on a onesie twosie type basis. Does that make sense?
And yeah. And so with this, if most of the stuff is likely the same, do most attackers or hackers use an automated system to distribute it all at once to several machines, or they do it one by one?
So I want to say it depends, okay? Because I went to a talk maybe a couple of months ago where basically someone said, hey, this is the range that we're looking in, or they gave like an IP address, and they had an automated tool which basically went through and did the scanning, the exploiting, the enumeration. They did all of the steps in a matter of seconds, and then they had like a full network map, and the machines that you had that had been taken over had turned red, or and the ones that were not were a different color. So they were able to automate that entire process, but those are basically paid like commercial solutions. So some folks can actually have tools that can enumerate it, do the whole process for you automatically. You can also do, as an individual, just put together a script. So like Blue Team Thomas, when I put out the first lab, he was like, I realized that it was relatively quick to get through because he's, seen this stuff before. So he put together an automated script that just did all of the steps for him. And, outputted, the stuff that, it would have taken some folks, maybe a couple hours or, some time to get through. He put together a script that could just do it. So, once you get more used to the process, you can definitely, have in your arsenal automated like a Python script or some other, a shell script or PowerShell, I think is what Blue Team Thomas uses. But you can, owning the machine, pivoting, covering your tracks, most of that can probably be automated.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? All right, so covering your tracks. So one of the last few steps within the process is after you've taken over, you've done your enumeration, you've escalated your privileges, you've pivoted to other machines, is that you want to cover your tracks. So there's multiple reasons for you wanting to be able to cover your track, both as an ethical hacker and a hacker. So anytime you do anything in a system, it leaves a footprint. So it creates a log, it modifies a file. There may be a timestamp somewhere that says that you were in there. If it's a system file, there may be like something that says that the file has been changed or modified. So all of these things create logs. So to avoid getting caught, if you're ethical hacker, or even as a malicious hacker, or just to clean up after yourself as an ethical hacker, you have to get good at covering your track, which is removing any files that you've created. For example, if you had to get a payload onto the system, like that you've customized yourself, you want to take that off there, because if you leave it on there, then the ethical hacker, the malicious hacker that goes in there later, they could just use your payload to maybe exploit whatever it is that you didn't mitigate or eliminate through your report. So the point is, when you're done, basically clean up after yourself. Make sure that you're not leaving traces of you being there. So any questions about that?
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
So how are you keeping track of what you're pitting on desktops, laptops when you go in there? Are you going to multiple locations and just dropping things? Or once you drop it, then you clean it up? How does that work?
Okay, so like for me, right? So when I get on there and I have something that I want to be able to use, right? Like, so I will download, something either to the desktop for me, because it makes it easier for me to be able to find it, and I don't have to go looking for it. Because in Linux, depending on what user rights you have, you may not be able to write things to all locations. Okay, so you want to put it either in a temp file, or you want to put it into the desktop, or somewhere that the user that you has access to, right? So if you put everything into the download folder, that's fine. You can go through and make sure that you delete the download folder or delete the temp folder when you're done, right? But at the same time, you've got logs information. So we saw last week that as a defender, a blue teamer, you probably want to have your local logs being stored somewhere else, not on the actual machine. And the reason being is that if it's on the machine and I get administrative rights because I've owned your machine, then I can at that point delete all of the logs, and maybe I'm not going to go through and just delete the couple of steps that I did, or the sections that I did. It's probably quicker, if I'm trying to get in and get out, for me to just delete everything and then get out. But that itself may, flag someone, but the absence of information may say, hey, somebody was here, but seeing, my IP address in there, or my, decoyed IP address or whatever in there, may give them specific information that says, hey, check out this particular person. They may be able to track something back to you. So it just depends on how much time that you have available and what your intentions are. Because if you're not supposed to be in there at all, like a malicious hacker, maybe you just want to go through the log and remove anything from your time window. So like, you started doing it at 8 o'clock. So, you'll go in and you'll delete anything from 8 o'clock to 8:15, which is how long it took you to, take over the machine, right? So you'll delete anything in the logs from that area, any modifications to files, or, because you never know what it is that you may need to do when you get in there, based on, because it's really based on what's in that particular system, what versions are in there, what payloads, maybe you don't have the time to download a full, script engine, or it really just, you want to try to have a minimal footprint when you go in there, so you have less things that you need to get rid of.
Okay, so when you're doing this, are you doing this, not the people that's not supposed to be doing this, but when it's your job to do this, are you doing this during while people are at work? Or are you doing this at nighttime? When are you doing this to keep, I mean, because if you're putting things on people's desktop, they're gonna see that.
Well, yeah. So you definitely want to try to do it. So you want to minimize getting caught, right? So there have been plenty of times where you'll see something where, they're saying, hey, I see my mouse moving, right? Or, you see that on movies or whatever. But in general, like, whether you're doing an ethical hacking engagement or you're, trying to, as a malicious attacker, get into the system, you want to do it when there's not a bunch of people there. And the reason being is that, if somebody sees you, or if, somebody is monitoring it and says, hey, I see this, or, you know what I'm saying? The less people there, the less chances you have of somebody noticing what's going on. Because, let's say you put something in there and then you remove it immediately, but someone is sitting there staring at the screen, when you do it, they may say, hey, there was just a file that was put in here, but now it's gone. Then someone's going to start investigating, even if it didn't flag like an intrusion prevention system or intrusion detection system, somebody may actually see it. So I think in both cases, you want to try to do it when no one is there.
At my job, anytime they say their mouse moving and all that, I'll be like, oh, here they go again with their delusions.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. But like sometimes I do some automated testing, and I'll leave and I'll come back, and then like my husband will say something to me, and I'll be looking at the screen, and I'll be like, and I have to like catch myself for a second, because like I'll see the mouse moving because it's running an automated script that I put together, but like I'll forget that I'm running an automated script, so I'm like, yo, somebody is petty. And then it'll take me a second to realize, that it's actually me that kicked it off. Yeah.
So if my mouse is moving on my personal laptop, should I just get rid of the entire laptop, or?
So I don't know. That's a rough question. Like, I feel like you would really need someone like Blue Team Thomas to answer that. And the reason being is, so for me, it depends on what type of like if it's my backup laptop, like I'll probably just trash it rather than trying to figure out what's going on. Because if it's like something that's at root level or kernel level, depending on what it is, like it may not matter that you go to a restore point, or that you reinstall, because it may be you might be screwed already. They may put something in the registry, or like if you've put in like a USB port, then and you took that from like one machine to another, or if you did like a file transfer, then it may be everywhere on your network. So like I don't know enough about network defense and malware analysis, and I honestly don't. Me, the person, like, more than likely, I'm not going to trust anything that it's touched at that point. Like, I'm not going to try to recover any files. I'm not going to try to like email them to myself, because, it could be in anything at that point. So
yeah,
I don't know. Like, but you should probably ask like someone like Blue Team Thomas, who, does this for a living, exactly how they do like their malware analysis and determining, what the impact is. Cause he was telling me the other day that like, they have like, for example, like a sandbox, and they put it in there and they try to figure out what exactly it's done, what it's modified, what connections it tried to make outside of your computer, what the impact of it is, so that you can, go through the process of removing it from, the system. But like, like I said, Tanisha, the person, would probably just trash it and change all of the passwords. And actually, I'd probably just change all the devices out. Like, you're going to need a new Xbox, husband. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Can't trust anything.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I've just been too, I guess, frugal to try to get a new. Yeah, so it's like I'm just waiting it out, but it's like I'm not doing anything besides studying and doing materials. But outside of that, I feel like it's been compromised already.
I mean, and I feel you. Like, so like the machine that you guys normally see me on, like I don't even log into my real emails like over here. Like I don't know what the passwords are anyway, but like I don't log into like them into this computer because like, I don't know, for example, enough about virtualization. Like they say that if you, you have it in that network, that, you should only be getting information that's on that particular network. But I've seen, some case studies online about, things that have been seen in the network or on like Wireshark that's outside of the network, if that makes sense. So, I don't trust that it can't, like I just don't, trust it. They say that, you won't have to worry about it. And if you got like your, your router's daisy chained and you're doing this and then it should protect it. But, people who, care enough to try to hack you, they'll probably, spare no expense or, no effort to try to get it, whatever it is they're trying to get at. So.
Yeah. But I'm not sure if I would fall into the same thing once I get a new laptop, because I might do the exact same thing that I messed up with before. And it's like,
yeah. But the other thing is like, you probably have other devices that are on your network. So like, we've talked about the process of, once you own that particular machine, you look at all the machines that are on the same network to see if you could try to take over some of those, So like if they took the time to, like, if they're not just using your machine, for example, like a botnet or for, as a zombie or whatever, then it may be on your network as a whole. So like I said, I don't know what you do at that point. Like if you suspect that something's on your network, I don't know that I would trust to put anything else. Like I might just have like a whole new everything, but like I don't think that that's the rational thing to do. But like I said, I don't personally know what the answer is.
right.
But like I also believe in, what is it called?
Ghost?
Doomsday prepping.
Oh.
No, doomsday prepping, like zombie apocalypse type stuff.
Yeah.
So I may not be the best person because my level of paranoia may be higher than other people. So, all right, but that's, it might be, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for covering tracks and for this domain. So if there are no other questions, we can play Kahoot, but I just want to point out something. I'm kind of sad that my computer's not cooperating so that we could do this lab today. But I wanted to point out something from last week's lab that we were supposed to go over today. And that is about the zombies. I just reminded myself about the zombies. All right, so this right here. So I updated this so if you pulled this lab down last week, I updated it today when I provided a screenshot. Actually, I didn't even provide a screenshot. The reason being is that you have to use a zombie IP or a zombie machine in order to run this. So you say S, and this is an I, not an L. And you put the zombie IP in there, and then this is your web app, your broken web app machine, right? And this is an idle scan, but it says that you need a zombie IP address in order to do this. So I tried to do it with my machine and then thought better of it. So this is just basically for your information, just as far as the nmap flag, so that you know that -I is for a idle scan, and then you need to supply a zombie IP address. So a zombie is just basically like a machine that is being used like in a bot, or that's being used without your knowledge. So like there's a connection that's going on and they're using it to spam or to DOS or whatever. So this is just more so for your information, that this is what it would look like. They won't ask you specifically about, a zombie on there, but you may see something on there about -I, which is an idle scan. And I tried to do all the other example scans. So the null scan, the Christmas scan, which I think we saw in a couple of the questions of the day, and then an ACK scan. So I tried to, between the nmap, this is a send scan and a UDP scan. I tried to, between the nmap and the HPing examples, to include, most of the common flags that you'll see, but there are a lot of flags, a lot of different examples that you can do. But this is important, again, because like, as we talked about last week, when you're doing packet crafting to try to get past a firewall that may have specific ports blocked. Like, so if port 80 is open, then you want to try to get whatever it is that you're trying to get into the network over port 80. But if port 80 is not open, maybe you need to do it over, another port that's actually open. So you need to be able to craft your packets so that you can try to get past the firewall to do that. So that's why you'll see that between the packet crafting and the collection of the Wireshark. So we were saving this for Wireshark because, like I said, on Friday we're doing a Wireshark lab, and then next week we'll be doing, starting next week, we'll start doing some Wireshark analysis. So towards the end of the CEH, so you'll see on Meetup that I put out the rest of the weeks. So towards the end of the CEH, the last, I want to say, couple of chapters are basically just tools. What we'll do, I've been trying to incorporate the tools, as we've been going in each week, so that you're not like overwhelmed and bombarded with all the tools at once. But like, I've been giving you the tools that are related to the materials that we're doing, but there are a lot more tools that are included on the CEH blueprint that we have not covered. So they may be tools that do different things, or they may be tools that do the same things as tools that we commonly use, but you should at least know that when you see them, what it is that they're doing, what it is that they're supposed to do. Because there are a lot of, I think it was something like 22% of the exam is like tools, which is like Nmap and other things that we use in order to try to accomplish things for the phases that we look at. So if there are no questions, we will go do our final Kahoot, and I will try to get my lab together. And like, if worst case scenario, I'll set up once I get it together, we'll do a separate day, or maybe I'll just do an hour before, an hour after, so that you guys who want to see it can see the labs in person. Like I said, I included the screenshots for them, but I need my computer to stop being stupid. All right, so Kahoot. All right, and Krista, DM me so I can make sure to update your number in the question of the day channel. All right, I'm going to put this on another screen because I don't want it to like show you the questions before. All right, so there is the final Kahoot number for today. And again, you go to kahoot.it, you put in the game pan. You don't have to download the app. You can just do it from any web browser. The answers are put in on whatever device that you put the pin number in, and the questions are going to be shown on my screen. Let's see. Sierra and Oracle, do you want to join?
I'm not going to join. This is my first week, so I'm just kind of watching.
All right, sounds good. Oracle, are you joining? All right, I don't see anything, so we will go ahead and get started. Guaranteed podium, can you?
Yay.
I'm sorry, what did you just say? What could you use to obtain password hashes from a compromised system? Yep, Mimikatz is the answer. We didn't talk about this one, so I don't know if that's fair. All right, number 2, John is used to exploit common vulnerabilities. Yep, no, John is a password. We talked about this. John is a password cracker. All right, RB's on it. Let's go. Number 3. What kind of enumeration would you use derb for? That's the one I probably would have selected too. It is for directory enumeration. Derb. All right. Next. Number 4. True or false? Nmapped can be used to enumerate services. Yep, Nmap is definitely used to enumerate services. All right, number 5. SMB is used to do data transfers on Windows. That is true. It is not used on Linux. It is used specifically on Windows. All right, number 6. What do you authenticate with on SNMP? What do you authenticate with? This is actually in the text. I did not cover it, so it is community string. This is the simple network management protocol. All right, so next, number 7. Enum for Linux is used to enumerate what? It is actually used to enumerate shares and users. I would have probably selected Linux-based services also. So, but it is actually for user shares and users. All right, next. Number 8, true or false? Nmap will allow you to create custom enumeration functions. Yeah, so it's actually true. You can use pre-existing enumeration functions, or you could create your own. All right. Number 9, RPC is primarily used for inter-process communication. Yeah, RPC is remote procedure call. You need to make sure that you're looking at your acronyms while you're studying, but it is used for inter-process communication. All right. And number 10, I entered the 18 days of book giveaways on Twitter because I want to win free books. Okay, so everybody is correct here, but if you did not It looks like one person did. The rest of you need to go check it out. We're giving away Hacking 101 books. John Bizzle 703 on Twitter actually donated them so that I can give them away for 18 days. So if you guys don't follow Black Girls Hack on Twitter, you should go do that so that you can be eligible to win the free books. And I'll be giving a book a day for 18 days starting today, and it'll be going till Christmas. So
I just don't have Twitter.
You know what? I was about to say just go get it, but
yeah,
I understand you. I understand your life.
I have Facebook and IG. That's about it.
Okay, maybe next time we'll do it on IG.
I'm about to follow now.
Go ahead. I don't think there have been a bunch of people who have joined so far, so your odds are better, guaranteed podium. So you'll get a book and some Black Girls Hack swag, so check that out. And like I said, I will try to set something up once I get my computer together. I want you to know all day today I was on here and there were absolutely no problems, but the moment I try to connect to the network and do what I'm supposed to do, it crashes. So I will get that together and let you guys know. Actually, I don't think I'll do it this weekend because I know Christian has said that he's going to be out. So maybe on maybe Monday, we'll do a makeup lab day to go over the stuff from 4 and 5 so you can be familiar with those tools, because I don't want to just throw everything on you towards the end. Because like I said, the tools section is very intensive. So, all right. So does anyone have any questions? Because if not, I will see you either later today for the 25 days of Christmas or, later on. All right, guys. Well, I will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.